Hey everyone, it's Cass here on Transform Your Life, and I wanted to expand on some of the things I said in my last video because when I am that blunt in my communication, I know that it calls for a context to be given because the things that I was saying are very direct, very not sugar-coated, right? So the first thing that I want to say is if you're watching my channel, you're going to be watching me make some judgment calls, okay? Because we need to be making righteous judgment calls in order to save our lives, okay? This is what it's gonna take for you to not only survive in the narcissistic pandemic that we live in, but also to get to the point where you can thrive. You can create outcomes for yourself where you are experiencing the mental, emotional, and physical health that you want to experience. And in order to do that, we need to pinpoint, we need to be able to pinpoint and identify what's going on and draw a conclusion, make a righteous judgment call about what is going on in our relationship dynamics, okay? So that we can then execute action within ourselves and in regard to our environment, and we can take steps out of the dysfunction and abuse around us and work to become aware of dysfunctional and abusive patterns of behavior within ourselves, okay? So the next thing that I want to talk about is that a narcissistic woman, when you're dealing with a narcissistic woman, and I want to talk to men or anyone who is in relationship with a woman who is thinking and saying, I'm just going to do A, B, and C to keep the peace, with this partner of mine, because if I don't, I feel like something bad is going to happen. I feel like I have to suppress myself. I feel like I have to hide truth. I feel like if I don't do A, B, and C in this relationship, I cannot keep the peace with my partner. So the first thing I want to say to anyone who is in relationship with a woman who is exhibiting dysfunctional and abusive patterns of behavior is that there is no keeping the peace with a narcissistic woman, because there was no peace to begin with. There is no keeping the peace with a narcissistic woman because there was no peace to begin with, okay? So anyone who's in this situation, I invite you to tune in to your mental, emotional, and physical self when you are interacting with the woman that you are in relationship with. If she isn't already your peace, and I hear a lot of men saying they want a woman to be their peace. If she is not your peace, then also, men, there's no keeping the peace with her. Peace doesn't exist. And in my last video, I was talking about, women who are treating you like SHIT and other women like SHIT. And I said, especially if you see her treating other women like SHIT. So what do I mean by that? I mean obvious bullying patterns of behavior, obvious cruelty, okay? If you witness your partner who is a woman bullying other people overtly, and your conscience is telling you this isn't right? That is what I'm referring to. I am referring to, now I'm being told to give you an example of a very specific context to help you draw parallels. So when we were all back in high school or junior high and we saw bullying going down, obvious, overt forms of bullying, and our conscious was telling us, we saw it and we were like, oh my gosh, that's terrible, that's horrible. And then those of us who didn't say anything, we later on, let me know, post in the comments if you had this experience, right? Because we're all human, we make mistakes. Later on, those of us who didn't say anything and stand up for the person who was being bullied in the moment, it's something that follows us. It's a trail of regret that follows us our whole lives, where we're like, oh my goodness, I should have said something. I should have stood up and said something, because our conscious was telling us right from wrong, okay? So if a man is in a trauma-bonded relationship and a woman is exhibiting abusive patterns of behavior under the table that are going under the radar, right? And she is being covertly aggressive towards her partner, okay? That's not what I was talking about in the last video. In the last video, I'm referring to moments in time, men, where you can see that your partner or anyone who may be in relationship with a woman, if you see overt, obvious forms of abuse and cruelty, and you're going along with it to quote unquote keep the peace, right? You are enabling that behavior. And not only are you enabling that behavior, it is having a direct impact on you as well. If you start to tune in to your mental, emotional, and physical well-being, you will start to notice how your partner is impacting you on these different levels, okay? And when you see a woman inflicting cruelty, obvious cruelty and bullying onto others, right? The most important thing is to step in and do the right thing, because it's the right thing to do, right? To say something, even when it's your partner, right? We need to hold people accountable, right? That's the first most important thing. And secondly, if you see her, you know, because you care about others outside of yourself, right? If you're not being narcissistic, if you see her inflicting cruelty, obvious cruelty onto others, what makes you think that she wouldn't be quick to do that to you, right? Or your children, if you have children with this woman, or you are planning on having children, or you are around children at any point, what makes you think that if you haven't already experienced obvious, overt bullying and abusive tactics onto you, what makes you think that she would not, you know, also be doing this covertly to you if you see her showing up in a disturbed way? Now, I want to call this, I've decided I'm going to call this, as George Simon calls it, disturbed character, okay? Because I want to move beyond labeling people who are dominating others unhealthily, bullying other people, showing up in the world to harm other people as immature. Or, you know, in my last video, I was pulling on social conditioning, right? And I said, you're not a woman in my eyes, because in order to be a woman, you need to show respect, right? And I said, I referred to the woman that I was addressing as little girls. Now, I want to retract that, and I'm going to start calling these people's behavior disturbed, okay? Because in my mind, it's not right to, when I'm really assessing these patterns of behavior, I don't feel I feel like it's more accurate is what I want to say. I get where people are coming from when they say immature, okay, totally. But I feel like it's more accurate to say these people are disturbed, okay? Let's name it. Let's locate it. Let's name it for what it is, and let's start holding these women accountable, okay? Not only for, first and foremost, the people that they are harming, right? But also for these women themselves, because I always tell people as an accountability orchestrator, right? On this planet, it's my job, it's my purpose to be an accountability orchestrator. And I tell people the greatest form of love you could ever show someone else is to hold them accountable for their abusive, harmful patterns of behavior, okay? That is the greatest form of love that you could ever show anyone, is to hold them accountable. And it is the greatest form of love that you can show to others that you see that are being harmed, including yourself, men, right? Because if you're in a relationship with a woman who is bullying, who is narcissistic, who is very self-focused at all costs, right? If you stay in a relationship with someone like that and you start to recognize, you know what? This relationship is costing me so much, right? It is taking a toll on my mental, emotional, and physical well-being. So when you hold people accountable and you hold yourself accountable, it's the greatest act of love for yourself too, to say, you know what, no, I'm going to start inciting consequences. I'm going to start standing up for myself. And if my partner doesn't change, maybe, right, I need to rethink this situation, right? I don't want to be dogmatic like I was in my last video, but at the same time, men, I hope you understand where I'm coming from. I hope that you understand that if you stay in relationship with these women, albeit your choice, there are consequences, right? There's a law of cause and effect. So I highly encourage you to take action where she is held accountable and you hold yourself accountable so that you can show up in the world in a way that allows you to transform your mental, emotional, and physical health. So that is everything I have to share with you today, and I will continue in the next video.